here with?
Dr. Bailey, Superintendent of Schools.
Nice to meet you. So where did you grow up?
So I was born in the South Bronx in New York City. Around 3 years old, we moved to Lakewood, New Jersey. And basically, I was there until I went to college in 91. I started at Lafayette at 91 and graduated in 95. And then from Lafayette, I then moved to Connecticut for a short time when I was playing professional football in the Arena League. And then back to the Lehigh Valley into Bethlehem. And I was in Bethlehem off and on, between Bethlehem and Easton for quite a while. And now I'm in Williams Township.
Awesome. What's your educational background?
So after graduating from Lafayette, I went to Lehigh to get my master's degree in education. I also got my teaching certification while I was there, and then got my principalship certification at Lehigh as well. After that, I took a break for quite a long time and graduated with my doctorate in 2020.
That's great. What's your career background? Where have you worked prior to being a superintendent?
So after leaving Lafayette, I really had no intention on becoming an educator, not a formal educator. My plan was to go into public speaking. Actually, I wanted to travel to colleges and universities and organizations and speak about rape, sexual harassment, and the male image in America. I got certified as a rape counselor, and so I just had a really strong interest in it. And a professor took me out to lunch, my last class at Lafayette, who happens to still be there, Flooney Hutchinson, and basically said to me, "Hey, why should any university listen to you? What do you have to offer?" And what he was trying to say to me is, you need to go to graduate school. You need to get some letters behind your name. And so from there, while I was in arena football, I applied to Lehigh. I had worked at Lehigh as an instructional aide while I was training for professional football, and got the job to come back there to teach at Centennial School, which is a part of Lehigh. And like I said, while I was there, got my teaching cert. Still had no plans on going into formal education, but eventually kind of just fell in love with it, and had an opportunity to my last year at Centennial take on an administrative role. Did that. My last class of my master's degree, a professor took me out to lunch and basically said to me, "Hey, you could do this public speaking thing, but you should think about becoming a principal." And so toyed around with it a little bit, got my cert, and fell in love with that. And from there, taught at Freedom for 2 years as an emotional support teacher while I finished up my certification. And you have to have 5 years of experience in Pennsylvania in order to become an administrator. So after leaving, I left Freedom after 2 years to go to Parkland. I was at Parkland for 10 and a half years as an assistant principal, and then 6 months as their head principal at the high school. And during that time, applied for the principal position at Liberty. Was fortunate enough to get that position, and was there for 12 and a half years before coming here.
That's amazing. So what drew you to Wilson then?
Well, we live in the district. We live in Williams Township, and but much earlier than that, when I was at Lafayette, my coach, Paul Ferenci, who currently still holds the shot put record here, he was a Wilson guy, grew up in Wilson, right down the street from here, and we would come here off and on to train. So I would I competed after competing in discus, I competed in the Scottish Highland Games, which is, if anyone's heard of Celtic Classic, that happens in Bethlehem. So I would do that, and he was training me both in discus and then in Highland Games. And so we would train over at the high school a little bit. And so I was familiar with Wilson quite a bit before we moved here. And so I spent a lot of time with amazing students and staff in the Parkland District School District and in the Bethlehem School District. And truly incredible experiences in both places. But there's something about giving back to a community that you live in. And so we've lived here since 2007. And my oldest son has already graduated and is in college as a result of his experiences here. And I have two others coming who are at the high school who are coming through. And so there's definitely that calling to kind of pay it forward, as you say, right? To give back to those people and the community that gave a lot to you. And so for me, it was a calling to come back to where I live.
That's great. What are 3 goals you have for Wilson now that you're superintendent here? So the first is I've basically spent these first 2 weeks just listening. I've interviewed about 25 people at this point, and it's literally just asking questions and trying to understand the district from their perspective. So currently, as a parent, I have one perspective, right? But in order to lead, you have to understand everyone's perspective and how they see the district and where they see the strengths and the challenges. And so my first goal is to spend a lot of time listening so that, so that I can understand what's happening. You don't want to be in a position as a leader where you are fixing problems that don't exist. Or fixing them in ways that don't really help the people that need it. And so you have to be proximate to those problems in order to do that. And that takes either physically being in those spaces or deliberately listening to the people who do. And so that is that first piece. The next goal would be to start to figure out how we get everyone in the district thinking and focused on the same objective. And so we have to make some decisions about what that should be, and let everyone kind of weigh in on that, and then do our due diligence to get everyone rowing in the same direction. And then finally, my third goal for this, at least for the foreseeable first few years, is to make a very concerted effort to connect the district to our community partners. So that means finding ways to connect us to St. Luke's, which is right down the street. Finding ways to connect us to Lafayette College, which is my alma mater. Finding us ways to connect to the community businesses and churches, because these are all very very important resources that our schools and our students and our families can benefit from if we design those partnerships in ways that are helpful to both sides of that partnership. And I think we can do that. And so those are kind of loosely three goals that I think are doable in the next year or so. Yeah, those are great goals to have and definitely benefit the district. Now getting into more general questions. Mm-hmm. What's it like balancing your family life with your work life, even before you're at Wilson and now that you're
technically working with your children. You know, you have them in the district. The decisions you're making are affecting their education. What's that like?
I will profess that I am horrible at that. That is one area for me that has always been a struggle. There is kind of those sayings out there about people having what they call work-life balance. And I heard someone say once that work-life balance for people who are really work-driven is a fallacy. It doesn't really exist. What you try to have is work-life harmony, meaning that you are working in a way that makes that you feel happy, you feel fulfilled, and the people in your family understand and can reasonably work with, and the people you work with by the other token can navigate with you. And so I think, do I have work-life balance? Absolutely not. Probably most people out there would consider me a workaholic. But I think I have a decent sense of work-life harmony. And my family understands that I love what I do. I love helping schools and communities, and it is, to me, one of the most important things we can do to help people who may not be in positions where they're able to access resources and supports that they need, and ultimately provide for our children and our students the resources they need to reach what they consider to be success in the years ahead. Because ultimately that feeds our community in the end, when they finally become whatever it is they want to become, and our country, which we all have to navigate and live in. So
it's great that you're able to find that harmony, though, even if there's not a balance. I think that's a great way of looking at it and understanding that relationship. My next question is, what responsibilities do you have as a superintendent, and what's your day-to-day life like? I think, as students, we see our principal every day, we see our vice principal every day, we see our teachers. We don't really see the superintendent that often. So what's happening in this office while we're in school?
That's a good question, because I'm just figuring that out myself. It's people have been asking me, right? People at Liberty who I was very close with. I had a very close team at Liberty, very close to my administrators, teachers, support staff. And they asked me that question, right? Like, what is it like? Like, how is it going? What are you doing? And one of the things I replied to them is, it is a true adjustment, because as a high school principal, you are constantly on the go. The problems, the issues, they're coming to you constantly. We used to joke if an analogy is thinking about trying to drink from a fire hose, right? Like, it's just doesn't stop. And so you get attuned to sitting in your office doing work, but always listening, right? Listening to the radio, listening to things that are happening in the halls, and so there's you get your nervous system gets normalized to that high pace. Well, I mean, after 12 and a half years as a principal and about 11 years as an assistant principal, it wears on you a little bit, but you're so used to it that you don't realize what it's like not to be in that environment. And so coming here, is an adjustment because you don't have that pace. There's not that knock at the door every 5 minutes, right? So that has been an adjustment, in the quiet, right? Like it's like I'm not used to that, so I'm working on that. In terms of the job itself, the majority of it is thinking about being in a constant state of planning, because you're continuously looking at what's going to happen, right? What construction projects need to happen, what the budget is going to be, what is happening in the political sphere that is going to impact schools, and then how do you pivot from those things. So you're in this constant state of thinking about the future, and the next steps. And if you're fortunate, you have people, both that you work with at district office and people in the buildings, that are able to handle the here and now, so that you can really focus on what's next. And so that's kind of what I've learned so far.